Welcome to Sky Sports Racing's preview of the Betfair Ascot Chase, the Grade 1 showpiece at Ascot on Saturday afternoon. Field of 8 stand their ground, and alongside me to look at it in depth is Mick Fitzgerald. Hello there, Mick.
Good afternoon.
You're looking forward to it. It's a really good renewal, isn't it?
It is, and the amazing thing is 8 entries, 8 declared.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic, and for people who love a little bit of each way in a graded race, they've got their wish.
You're talking my language, Mick. Let's take a look at some of the previous winners of this race, because there is quite a roll of honour. Some real greats of the game have won. Of course, you can go back to the likes of Monet's Garden before that graphic he used to love, rocking up at Ascot, winning this race. Dashel Drasher, of course, won it last year, but Surname put up that tremendous performance in 2019. Silvignaco Conti, of course, Q Card, Riverside Theatre going further back, of course, Koto Star as well. So there have been some great winners.
Yeah, there have. Look, it's fantastic that we've got a strong field. Got a little Irish interest in here as well, which gives it a real boost. And I think it's a fascinating race. Last year's winner, of course, Dashel Drasher, he got chinned at Linkfield.
Yes.
Can he bounce back at his favourite track?
It was interesting as well, because I was speaking to Kevin Blake about it, and he was just talking about how he was sort of flicking his ears as if he might not have been putting it all in at Linkfield. But then again, he was also in the teeth of a really strong gallop that day. So you pays your money, you takes your choice with that bit of form. But we'll take a look at the betting. And at the moment, well, I tell you, it was also interesting, speaking to Kevin Blake, who, of course, is heavily involved with Fakir D'Oudairies. He's very confident about Fakir D'Oudairies' chance, but he thinks San Calvados might be a better price. So that's the punter in him talking.
Yeah, you know, you can't help yourself, I suppose, if you think that way, and if you've, you know, Kevin has always been that way minded, whereas I would always be, you know, thinking to myself, right, I want to ride the one that's got the best chance of winning. And if that's the case, well then, you know, you've got to narrow it down to, you can only ride one horse, and you know, it's very different as a punter. You can back 2, but as a jockey, you can only ride 1, so you've got to pick the right one.
So if you were riding, which one do you want to be on?
You know, I think Fakir D'Oudairies is ticking a lot of boxes. Second Allaho last time. I think there was a lot to like about that performance, because the mistake that he made in the early part of the race really put him on the back foot.
Yeah, it was good, because he did jump badly at that first fence, and then often that can knock the confidence of a horse, but as the race went on, he really got it back, and he was jumping.
It was almost like watching 2 different horses that day. The first half of the race was not comfortable viewing if you backed him, whereas the second half of the race, he was growing in confidence, and he showed the finish that you expected from him. Yeah. But you've got to take into account what happened in the early part of the race. You know, just remember as well how authoritative this horse was at Aintree.
And he hasn't got Allaho, who I think is probably the best pound-for-pound chaser across the islands to run up against this time round.
Oh, that's a brave call.
Well, all right, yeah, but it's off the top of my head. He's a seriously good horse, though, isn't he?
He is a very good horse.
He showed in the Ryanair. I mean, that was just some performance. So it'll be a relief for Fakir D'Oudairies and connections. They don't have to chase him home this time.
Yeah, I think they're very pleased to see him not in there, and I think that could be the reason why they're sending this horse over for this target. Is this a sign that we might not see him at Cheltenham, that he's going to bypass it and hopefully win this as a stepping stone to retaining his crown at Aintree?
Well, there's also, as well, Kevin said he's not an absolute certainty to go to Cheltenham either, so I think they're very much concentrating on this and then seeing what happens after that. And, of course, with Dashel Drasher in the race, that means there probably will be a pretty good gallop. This fella sort of settled up midfield, probably the best place to be tactically.
Yeah, I think I can't see him dropping in, but I can certainly see him just sitting behind the leaders. And, you know, that'll be a really good box seat to have, because, you know, a lot of the fancied ones will be in front of you and around you as well. So, you know, you won't be guessing.
Yeah, OK, so that's Fakir D'Oudairies, so the one you'd want to ride, yeah?
He's definitely the one that I'd want to ride in there. But, you know, you can, if somebody said to you, you're going to ride one of the others, you wouldn't be too disappointed if they were the ones that were around him in the betting.
We spoke to Paul Nicholls as well this morning about San Calvados. He said he's had this race in mind for him for quite some time. Yeah,
I think you've almost got to forgive him a little bit of that King George, because Gavin Sheehan, who rode him that day, he got sucked in on him, you know, to going forward when he shouldn't have. And it put paid to the horse's chances. You know, he's a doubtful stayer over that trip anyway, and I think that was borne out by how he finished in the King George. But at this sort of trip, He's a major player. You know,
Yeah.
I can remember watching him. He ran a super race in a handicap where I think he only got beat a short head behind Old Grangewood. It was a really good race that. You know, he carried a lot of weight that day and performed with real credit. I think this is his perfect trip.
And of course, he ran Min very close in the Ryanair, so 2.5 not a problem at all. It's probably his optimum distance. So yeah, St Calvados and Nichols seem very confident. Obviously, with this in mind, then probably Ryanair when we come to the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, well, he certainly, like you say, he's performed with great credit there in the past. You know, he ran Min close in the end. But you know, you're looking at some of the others in here, and it's hard. Horses for courses.
Yeah.
And like if Dashel Drasher has to be respected on his form at Ascot.
He does.
He loves it round there, especially with giving the ground.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you've got to look at. You know, we're watching him here beating Master Tommy Tucker. And, you know, Master Tommy Tucker is a pretty good yardstick, and he's run well at Ascot in the past. He finished second to Lostintranslation round there earlier this season. But Dashel Drasher, you think he's beat.
Yeah.
And a bit like you were saying with Kevin this morning, you know, with him flicking his ears, there's a little bit in the locker.
Yeah.
And round Ascot, it's perfect for him because they come at him one by one. He's able to fight them all off and just keep fighting them off.
And he's the obvious leader in the race, but he's not a horse you want to be giving an easy lead to, is he, around Ascot?
No, but the problem, it's difficult then as to when do you actually start tacking him. Because if you turn it into too much of a slog, who's it going to suit? And that's what you've got to ask yourself. And watching him last time at Linkfield, he was coming back again at the line.
What is it about this horse that makes him so good at Ascot?
It's the configuration of the track. Because you run downhill into Swinley Bottom. When you get to Swinley Bottom, you're climbing all the time. Now, you're loath as a rider to try and make too much ground on that uphill part of the course. But he's in front, so he's controlling. So he's actually feeling, you know, he's playing with you. You're trying to get upsides him. And every time he's just pulling out that little bit more. So he's actually making you dig deeper than you want to at a crucial time of the race.
Fanny and D'Estruval, another horse who goes well at Ascot, ran well under a big weight in a handicap last time and has got a bit of form at a high level as well, which suggests he might be able to be there or thereabouts.
He's an amazing horse. I thought that was a hell of a run last time. Getting beaten by a smart horse in Phoenix Way, giving him loads of weight. The handicapper was impressed with him. The handicapper actually put this horse up £3 for this run. So it shows you what a good run it was. And it was really interesting. I was looking at the sectional times for this because, you know, as you do, you're looking at an edge and thinking, right, well, could Lucy Turner have done anything else? If you look at the graph on the sectional times for Fanny and D'Estruval, he literally doesn't leave the line. So she gave this horse a great ride that day. He just got beaten by a young horse who had an awful lot in his favour. Receiving lumps of weight was the #1 factor, but it was still a very good run.
Yeah, it certainly was. And the way you're talking about it, he might have a bit of an each way squeak.
Yeah, I think he has. The one that I think is the forgotten horse in the whole race is Lostintranslation.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Lostintranslation's form, he won here earlier this season, beat Master Tommy Tucker when Dashel Drasher was well behind. Now, he ran into King George and was very disappointing. But at that time, you know, the Tizard horses weren't flying. They're very much back in form now. And this horse is what? I don't know what price he is, but he's a big price.
About 12s.
And I think he's one that you can't really rule out. Here we're seeing him with Dashel Drasher and Master Tommy Tucker. That's poor old Defy Desai, who's no longer racing. He's been retired now. But this was a solid run.
Was, yeah, and it's interesting if you look at great to have the sectional times of the jumps these days, certainly at Ascot, and it was a sort of one of those multicoloured races. They went fast early, then you got some greens and yellows when they slowed down, then they sped up, and then they slowed down again. But it was a good performance, and it showed that he was very much capable back at this level. And he's run badly at Kempton before, so if you forgive him that, he's definitely got a legitimate chance.
Yeah, and he's a Betfair Chase winner, this lad. He has some very good form to his name. You know, a horse who's performed with great credit at the Cheltenham Festival as well. So he has achieved at the highest level.
Yeah.
And he's languishing around at what looks a very juicy each-way price in a race like this.
Yeah, it certainly does. But as I say, as you were talking about each-way betting as well, there are options with those 8 runners. Waiting patiently, he's got in as well. Jack Tudor now gets the ride. Great record in the race. Obviously, he's possibly gone a bit sour, but there might just be a little bit left in the tank.
Who would have thought that you'd be seeing him at this sort of price only a year on from when he was fancied in races like the King George. You know, so a year is a long time in horse racing, and for waiting patiently, it must seem like an eternity. And, you know, his owner, Richard Collins, has been brilliant by taking this horse along gently, gently. Now is the time, I think, for him to start delivering. And, you know, Christian Williams will be hoping that he goes and runs well. And
a lot's been made about how the switch from Ruth Jefferson to Christian Williams, not necessarily from a kind of training quality angle, but in just in terms of the atmosphere and the way things are at the Christian Williams stable there in Wales. It's a unique way of training them, isn't it?
It is a unique way of training them, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And, you know, Ruth Jefferson did brilliantly with the horse. Christian will be hoping that he can get the same sort of results from this horse now that he's had enough time with him.
Yeah. OK, so that's a horse who's got a very good record in the race. Just trying to think of anything else that we haven't... Mr. Fisher, that's one we haven't mentioned, of course. Bit in and out for me. I always seem to catch him when he runs badly and then curse him when he runs well and haven't got a farthing on. Yeah,
but you, like, just have a look at some of his form. You know, he won the rescheduled Peterborough round Cheltenham when a lot of people felt that soft ground round Cheltenham wasn't going to suit him, whereas the Peterborough round Huntingdon was made for him. He went and won that. I actually saw him schooling this morning, and he was electric.
Was he?
Yeah, he was electric. He showed that he handled soft ground when winning at Kempton last time. The form has had a real boost. Eldorado Allen, we saw winning the Denman at the weekend. So that form now suddenly is like, whoa. He's 3 or 4 points shorter in the betting than he would have been had Eldorado Allen not won at the weekend. So, you know, you cannot rule him out. It looks the perfect trip for him. It's just whether how he handles Ascot. That'll be the next question.
So, Nicky, quietly confident?
Looking at it honestly, watching him school this morning with James Bowen on board, he was electric. So the horse is in very good form.
There you go. And quickly 2 for gold as well, of course, ran that really good race.
How can we possibly not think about him? Because he won that race at Lingfield at Dashel Drasher, was second in. Only a short head between them. He's a horse who looks like he doesn't stay the longer trips. This sort of trip looks perfect for him. And, you know, Kim Bailey's had a rough season. His horses have been very quiet in the last few months. This lad really lifted him out of that cold spell when winning at Lingfield, and you know Kim's horses are in much better form now, so I think, you know, this lad is, you cannot rule him out, and that's why this is a really quality renewal. And when you've got a horse like Fakir D'Oudairies in there, he's the one that I really like, and he's definitely the one I'd like to ride.
So there you go. That's interesting set of form judgments there from Mick Fitzgerald. If you're having a bet, which way would you want to go?
I want to ride the one. I want to back the one I'm riding. So Fakir D'Oudairies every day for me.
Yeah, Fakir D'Oudairies for me as well. I hate to be unoriginal there, but he looks at, and he's got that Irish form as well, which is so strong against some of these British horses. But
in the punting point of view, I'm going to have a little bit each way on Lost in Translation.
Lovely. OK, nice prices as well about Lost in Translation. 12 to 1 if you shop around. That's our preview of the Betfair Ascot Chase taking place at Ascot on Saturday.